don't try to implement a new process and be on the cutting edge of building science and bring design in-house and, don't do all the ands together. You can build them on top of one another, but look at where you're at and where you want to go, and prioritize the way to get there, and find a network of people that do what you do, that think the way you do.
Hey, Lindsay, Paul, glad to have you here.
Hey, Spencer, good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm excited for the conversation. And before we hit record, we were kind of talking about when we first met, and I think it was at the Co-Construct conference maybe last year. I'm starting to get a little fuzzy with all the events getting canceled this year, but I think it was last year. And you guys were up on stage kind of sharing some of the things that you guys have been up to, and I thought it would make for a great conversation here. So before we get into the main topic for today, maybe just dive in and give us a little bit of the company history and then what you guys are up to today.
Sure. Cullum Homes was founded 35 years ago by my parents from our dining room table. For a long time, it was just the two of them. Dad ran field operations, Mom ran the office. We hired one superintendent about 4 or 5 years in, and now we're a company of 55. And we grew from doing just construction, we did a light production home construction, to now being a fully integrated design and construction company. I am a licensed architect, so we do architecture and interiors in-house. And then Paul oversees the process and operations side. So we're very focused on, creating a really great experience for our homeowners and our team and our trade partners, just as seamless as we can.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know you've got, I think you said it was 60 people, so you got a lot of moving parts. And what kinds of projects do you guys work on? Is it mostly custom, renovation, or kind of a mix of everything?
So pretty much everything we do is custom to some extent, but we do everything from full custom, probably 80%, 90% is new build, and we have 6 coming up on 7 communities now that we do new build construction on. We also have a full renovations team and our customer concierge, which we call it now. So they'll go do all the after, all the maintenance, upkeep of the house, safety, kind of for the life of it, to know that we're always there for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
In addition to our communities, we do one-off, completely custom homes. People will come to us either with a parcel of land that they want to build on, or come to us because of our knowledge of the market and what is available and what might be available but not on the market. When it comes to just empty land. So we really do the full start to finish process here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. And with that many, different things going on, number of projects, different communities, how do you keep quality high? Because I would imagine, I know that's a big focus for you guys. And as you scale, training systems, all those things become critical, but are there some things that really stand out to you guys as you've been on this kind of growth curve that you've identified as like, oh man, you got to have these things in place?
Yeah, so we've, quality is a big thing that we focus on here at Cullum Homes. We actually had a meeting today with our field superintendents and how to manage that and maintain that quality out in the field. And kind of the biggest thing that's worked well for us is, we've grown a bunch of checklists and different, things to check over the years, 35 years of experience. And what we've done over the last year is kind of dwindle that down to we just have one centralized document that we utilize from our project designers, our project managers, and our superintendents. And, that allows it all to be in one spot. But I like to say it's not a rigid checklist, right? So it's not, 3 layers of approval to get something on, or you can't change it, right? It's, we change it, almost weekly from feedback when we go out in the field to our superintendents finding something wrong to updating it, and our project designers. So it's a constant kind of feedback in there. But with that, we also want to check to make sure it just doesn't grow exponentially, right? So there's not hundreds of items in there that once you get to framing, there's like 200 things you got to check to make sure you can go forward, right? So
there's nothing better than a 2,400 list checklist, right?
Right, and it's like, yeah, you might get everything done in 2 weeks, right? Just doing the quality control. So we do kind of a semi-annual review where we'll go through. Actually, our head of construction and me and our construction manager sat down last week and kind of went through like, okay, what are we either not having a problem with anymore, or what is just kind of frivolous stuff that we can take out to from our checklist to try to keep them more manageable. And that's been helpful for our team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would imagine that's got to be some sort of living tool or document, right? If you're changing it at that frequency, do you guys use? Is it a software or just like a Google Doc, or what have you found that works really well there?
Yeah, so we've actually just used Google Sheets for it. So it's, we can pull it up at different, everybody can pull it up at the same time. Multiple people can go do site walks and check stuff off at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're pretty big proponents of co-construct, and, in our schedule, it calls out and says, complete framing checklist, right? Like that's a scheduled task item to cue our superintendents or our project designers to complete a checklist at the end of a phase. So it references back to that schedule, but it allows more fluid changes, and those changes to happen more real time that we found just using it in Google Sheets as one kind of big master document that we copy for each job, right? So we have our master, and then we use it for each different job that we're utilizing it for.
One of the challenges of being a company of 55 and growing to that size is how do you communicate your intent for quality?
Mm-hmm.
When it's just, a couple of people, it's really easy to manage the expectations. So the checklist system just kind of sets the tone for what we expect to see. Most of the time, everybody is really trying to do a good job. And what we noticed over time is that people were developing these sort of side system workarounds to do their job better. And then it was creating all these avenues of information and folders of information that were in different places. So trying to consolidate that and have everybody working, in the same lane and doing things in a similar way and understanding, the intent and the end goal together, that has been helpful.
Yeah. How long did that take to kind of wrangle up all the checklists and docs from over the years and get them into the one?
I think we spent half of our Christmas vacation last year trying to wrangle it all together.
Sounds fun, yeah.
But our big thing was we didn't want to get, it's like, oh my gosh, we can't roll this out until we get it 100% correct. Like we have to have everything perfect. Like we rolled it out at the 90% solution, and we're constantly getting feedback. We just, we did our update, like I said last week. We're getting feedback from the team today that not only feedback from the construction side, but the benefit of being, an integrated design and build company is, if our superintendents say, hey, I don't understand what this drawing means, we can easily feed that back to the designers and say, oh yeah, okay, well, I'll just annotate this next time, or make sure we update this detail so there's a better communication process from, what the designers expect to be built and what the superintendents can read out in the field.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about design. Is that something that you feel like sets you apart, or has that been a big part of why you've grown, or is that just a kind of table stakes to be in the game?
No, I think design has been an opportunity for us to grow for sure, because by bringing that arm of the process together under one roof, we're all working towards the same end goal and on the same timeline, and it becomes one process instead of a design process and then a bid process and then a build process, and then you're hiring somebody to take care of your house afterwards. And it's all these pieces that the homeowner is having to manage. So we brought design in-house 20 years ago. Before that, it was, 10 years of him being with us, but just not working for Cullum Homes.
Right.
And now we have 11 of our team members are on the design side. And we committed to ArchiCAD, which is a BIM software, maybe 6 years ago now, and really are pushing it to its limits. So one of the things that has set us apart from a design perspective is that we are very in front of the curve in terms of embracing change in technology for design, which is a little bit unusual. Most of the time you get comfortable producing documents and drawing a certain way, whether it's by hand or in SketchUp or whatever the program is. And once you're comfortable, you just go and you're not going to change. We are constantly changing how we design to produce better documents, because my documents aren't only a way for me to communicate a vision to my clients, but it's the way that I communicate what's in my mind to the team that actually has to put it together. And they're in the office every day. I see them, I know who they are, having that personal relationship with the construction team, I think just adds to the strength of the drawings and the back and forth between the two divisions, because we're responsible to one another, and we really are a team.
Yeah, and the superintendents, they all have iPads, and we go out in the field. They can walk through virtually in the model and say, hey, this is what that elevation is supposed to look like. And, that matches the plans, and you can see exactly where it all fits together. And that's been a game changer from the way the superintendents can read in the field and then communicate that, with the trade, saying, this is the way the cabinets or wall tile or however that layout is supposed to be. And they can see that real time in the model.
Yeah. When we started doing that from a design perspective, we did not realize how much they were going to depend on the model. So there were a couple of homes where we just kind of were like, oh, the model's good enough. Like, we got the construction documents out of it, but no, we're not going to put all this detail into it. And then we go out in the field and they actually built what was in the model and not. And we're like, oh, wait, we got to make that. We're going to need to make that more accurate. So that's what we've done. Our interior design team is in the same model as well. So all the information goes into the same place and then feeds the documents real time. It's pretty cool to watch it all happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've got so many questions, but a couple, we've kind of talked about checklists on the operations side. We've talked about design. You guys have brought them together. But you've also gone through some pretty rapid growth too. And I don't know if you hit certain points where that growth kind of hit, growth spurt, so to speak. But I'm always curious with growing companies, like, can you pinpoint, was it a 2 or 3 things or one thing that really, or was it just this combination of trying to improve all the areas over the years?
I don't know if I could pinpoint one thing. But I guess what I can pinpoint is that we've stayed dynamic and been willing to take on work that's outside of our normal flow, been willing to entertain communities or projects that we're involved with that have an odd deal structure that's happening. One of Rod's biggest advantages, Rod Cullum, one of the founders, is he's the deal guy, and so everybody in town start to come to him. Oh, I have this parcel and, it has these weird circumstances, and he enjoys the challenge of bringing together, who is it from the city that we need? Who is it from, here? Which of the neighbors do we need to talk to? And trying to figure out how to make that deal come together. And by being open to those new projects, it's exposed us to a lot of additional work, which has helped us to grow. And then, of course, required us to streamline our processes to take on the additional work.
I think one thing that's helped us, which we just did a recent change probably 4 or 5 months ago, was, kind of how we outline personnel and responsibilities within the company. Because before we had, we had somebody who was very specialized in cabinets and electrical and one person on plumbing. And, it's hard to kind of scale up and down like that. So what we did was we basically have 3 kind of key roles in the company. So we have the superintendent, who's in charge of field operations, schedule, on site every day, the client's point of contact if they go do a site visit. We have the project designer, who is their key contact for architecture and interior design, works with them at the beginning part of the phase of the project. And then we have a project manager. So they kind of oversee the overall process. They do, work orders, bids, communicating with trades, making sure stuff stays on track, that kind of stuff. And so, those 3 key roles we found were, kind of cover everything that from a client touch point and from what we would need to execute a project from a project management standpoint. But then it's easy to, if you scale up, okay, we need some more superintendents and project managers, or if you have to scale down, it's the same type of job role, not very specialized, but more, a little bit about everything in your category, your responsibilities.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I'm sure from a training perspective, that's helped a lot too, not having to train for all the specialized positions. And if you just have one of them or 2, you have multiple.
Right.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, back to design a little bit. Do you find that your design process, you said you're always trying to stay kind of on the cutting edge in terms of design. Is it the design that sets you apart in the sales process, do you think? Or is it something else? What do you guys kind of lean on?
I think the integrated process is attractive to people who have built before. Our highest success rate from a sales perspective is with people who have done this before. They've maybe experienced the traditional design, bid, build process. And while they enjoy the home that they live in, they experience some of the headaches and challenges and added responsibility as the client that comes with that process. So while I think our design team is very, very talented and they're amazing, I don't think, our aesthetic of design is what sets us apart, but rather that it's part of the larger process, that it is, for lack of a better term, a one-stop shop. It's fully integrated. You're with the same team from start to finish, and the comfort of, having one group that's taking you through one point of responsibility, I think is attractive to the team.
Yeah. And from a cost standpoint too, I mean, we probably 90% of our jobs are fixed price, just because of the estimating, takeoff sheet and methodology that we built up, and the relationship with our trades of price guaranteeing for, so many months or years out. And that's allowed us to pretty much say, hey, this is from the contract before design, your house is going to cost this much. Now, of course, you can always scale up and down and add more fancy tile or different flooring and whatever above that throughout the process, but exactly that's what it's going to cost, and it's not having to bid it out or price of lumber goes up, so now your total goes up. We take on that risk ourselves based on our buyout.
Yeah, and buyers, they expect that today. They want to know what they're getting into, and there's not this just
exactly.
Oh yeah, let's sign and keep rolling, and we'll see how it shakes out. We'll fall in this wide range, So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about globally the way consumers just shop and buy. We want things fast. We want them, reasonably priced, but really still high quality. I think about Amazon, and we just expect things now, but it's still going to be good, and you have options. And so some of that still translates into big ticket purchases like this, where they still expect some of those things. It's on another level, but you you do have to
Mhm.
adapt to that. And I'm curious to, from the design side, you said you try to stay on the cutting edge. I think that's part of it. People like new, and if they're building or buying new, they want that. But what does that look like on a day-to-day basis, or week to week, or month to month? If you're trying to be on the cutting edge, I feel like that looks different than, oh, we got this nailed down, we're just going to kind of cruise.
Yeah. So I've always said I don't want anybody to be able to look at a house and say, oh, Lindsay designed that house. I don't have a look. Like, the goal is for someone to visit one of my homeowners and for them to say, Lindsay was my architect, the design team at Cullum Homes did the work, and I had such a great experience in putting together my home. Like, it's their place to call home. So with that in mind, I don't see the cutting edge of design necessarily meaning what's on trend, though we definitely care about that. But it's how that relates to our client and their needs and their budget and, what they want to come home to. Because designing in homes and building homes is so personal. It's very emotional for the homeowners that are going through it. And we're just here to be the guide, to be the subject matter expert, whether it comes from the design side or construction side, building science techniques. We just want it to be the finest experience that they could possibly have, going through this very emotional process. And, most people will get to do this once, maybe twice in their lives. So we want to make sure it's a really positive experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you just mentioned building science, so obviously you've got kind of the design side, but then you've got what goes into the actual construction of the project, whether that's process, technology or products. What are some things you guys are doing there to kind of stay at the forefront, or just kind of keep pushing that, client experience forward?
I think a lot of it is, going to IBS, International Builder Show, going to our local builder shows, kind of reaching out to new trade partners and seeing like, okay, what are some different ways to do that we could improve on flashing or waterproofing or details or, door pans, whatever the item is. And the good thing about being a house too is once we find something like that, we can feed that back to the architecture team, and this is the way we want to construct the window wrapping, or this is the way we want to construct door pans, and feed that back to design team to make that detail to call out so that it's, now that's our standard across the board. And so we're constantly, we don't always get it right with the new thing, but we're always trying to stay ahead and try different techniques. And I think ICF, the integrated concrete form block building, we were one of the first ones, I think, in the Valley to start using that, and we still use that on some of our homes, and just trying to stay at the forefront of some of those techniques as they come down.
Yeah, and that brings up another question for me, because here, at Builder Funnel, we do digital marketing, and so we always try to test new things on ourselves, as kind of experiment on ourselves. How do you guys go about that testing process with something super new? Is it something where you're just like, hey, we're pretty certain we're going to build that into this project? Is it a conversation with a client and they're like, yeah, I want to try this new thing? Or do you do something else?
Well, Rod and Kim have just moved last year into their 13th home. So growing up, we moved every 2 to 3 years, sometimes next door. I've moved next door twice, lived at the same address, 2 different addresses, 2 different times. We were the guinea pigs of everything. I think when home automation became a thing, the gentleman who came and programmed our house for a Crestron system came for 6 months every day, and he sat at a card table in our house and programmed the house while we lived there because it was a new thing and we didn't know how to do it during construction. But we learned how to do that. So now we don't have to, of course, technology has improved a lot since then. But in the early days, we were always testing it on ourselves, and we do quite a bit of what we call for sale model building or speculative work, and we'll try new things in terms of materials or applications. We try new things in those homes as well. If it affects the timeline, it's more our, it's more our loss and not a loss of time for a client, as they're waiting to move into their home. So we have maybe, what would you say, a third of the projects that are in the hopper right now are
for sale models, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it also gives our design team an opportunity to have some creative freedom and stretch their legs a little bit and have a little more creative control.
Mm-hmm.
They enjoy that too.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, because then you can kind of put the control back in your hands, test it out, maybe a little more flexible on timelines and that sort of thing. And but then it gives you that confidence to sell it, because I find that's probably one of the big things too, is you're like, well, this sounds good, but we've never done it before. We don't want to do it. I would imagine that makes it tougher to sell new things. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, well, the air system that we're testing here coming up, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we're going to be putting an ionizing air system in all of our air handlers. As it's been marketed as it prevents 99% of viruses, bacteria, all that kind of stuff, and so we're trying that out. I think Rod and Ken want to put that in their house that they live in right now to guinea pig it, and we'll measure the air quality before and after and kind of do some testing on it before we roll it out to the clients. But, those are kind of things that, as something like that comes out and, what the market's saying, with the whole COVID thing, what are the trends going towards, and then try to anticipate some of that and try out some new different ideas. But yeah, trying it out on our for sale homes or specs and Rod and Kim's house is kind of the good
nice
guinea pig for something.
Yeah, nice to have some guinea pigs ready to try some things out.
It's very nice.
Yeah. No, but that's great. I mean, it sounds like that's always been kind of part of the DNA is, hey, let's find a way to test this out and, build some confidence around it and then start, showing it to clients. And yeah, I really like that. And it sounds like you guys have definitely evolved over, 35 years, probably hard not to. You've grown quite a bit. You've expanded in terms of what you offer too. And it sounds like almost starting to become kind of a one-stop shop for people that can come to you. They can design, they can build, but then you can help them maintain that home. What does the future look like for you guys? I won't ask you what the next 35 years looks like, but maybe the next 5 or 10, something like that.
Yeah, I think this next couple of years is just continuing to hone what we've worked on now. We have a new community coming online at the Phoenician, which will be 51 homes there. It's the largest community we've done. And we've had a lot of interest in that, and just trying to create the system to a point where Paul and I don't necessarily have to be inserted into all the multiple steps of the process, but can take a larger view on some things, and then just really empower the team to be able to take ownership of their projects and handle the workload a little more independently. And then, opportunities come from varying places. We enjoy doing the communities. I love doing the one-off custom homes, the 3 to 5 year relationship projects. And it's always fun to have those. I'd like to have us get more into that kind of project in addition to the community work. But I don't know. We like Arizona. I don't foresee us expanding outside of Arizona. We've got a great trade base, and we've enjoyed getting to know our trades and nurturing some of their business decisions. That's been a lot of what Rod has worked on as well, teaching our trades to be good business owners, or helping them be better business owners than they are. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think as we kind of have developed these processes and continue to hone them. I think the key thing for us is making sure that we document that.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've created is, we call it the Cullum Way, or it's kind of our playbook, right? So we use a program called Trainual where we document all that in, but it's got everything from, hey, this is the procedure for how you write a work order, to, you know, this is how we want you to price certain items and estimate, to building science. It's got the whole thing in there. And, you know, I think that's the best way to kind of, you know, once you find something that works, you know, it's not just living in, you know, our brains or somebody's brain who developed it, right? It's disseminated across, and it's scalable and repeatable. And that's been a big focus of the last year or so, developing that.
Yeah, I would imagine that will help you guys, whether you continue to scale or just train new people and start removing yourselves, just having all that documented. That's awesome. Well, I've got a few more questions for you guys, but before we get to that, what advice would you share with somebody that's listening, where they're going, oh man, I can't imagine having that many projects going on or that many people, or I'm a little bit nervous about being on the cutting edge with things. Like, I want other people to kind of test that out first, or, you know, they're looking to improve their businesses and grow too. So any like nuggets of wisdom that you would share with somebody listening?
Don't do it all the first time at the same time.
That was the fantastic thing I was going to say. Yeah.
Don't try to implement a new process and be on the cutting edge of building science and bring design in-house, and, you know, don't do all the ands together. You can build them on top of one another, but look at where you're at and where you want to go, and prioritize the way to get there, and find a network of people that do what you do, that think the way you do. We were in Builder 20 for a long time. We're in, you know, the Co-Construct Founders Roundtable group, which is a small group of Co-Construct users that get together a couple times a month and just talk about business. It can be lonely owning your own business, because pretty much everyone you hang out with during the day works for you. So it's good to have some, you know, camaraderie with other business owners, other builders who are experiencing, you know, what you're going through, and it can either give you advice or pat on the back or a shoulder to cry on, or, you know, whatever you need as you're going through and building your business.
Yeah, I'd say the two things for me would be, yeah, as you prioritize what you want to change, you know, don't think you're going to change design and construction and the way you do work orders and all that stuff at the same time. Like, make sure you do it kind of in phases, right? And there's not kind of change overload within the company, that it's not, you know, because we went through a period where, hey, we had a lot of change going on, and we made a conscious decision that, okay, we're gonna flatten things out for a little bit. We're just make sure everybody gets comfortable in their new roles and their responsibilities, and, you know, get feedback from the team, and not try to just keep that change ramp very steep. The other thing is, you know, this is stuff that's worked here so far, but it's not necessarily, okay, well, I'm just going to take that and just throw it at my team and it's going to be good. Like, making sure that you get feedback from the team, and that it's not just a, you know, this is the way we're going to do it now. Like, see like what works and what do they think they can do better, and making sure there's that good communication flow, you know, up and down, of what process is going to work better going forward.
And one thing I'll add to that is write it down. If you are a sole practitioner out there and you have just started your building company, just get, you know, apply for Trainual, get Trainual or something else, and just start writing down what your process is. Because if you write it down when you're one person or two people or five people, it's a whole lot easier to scale it up than to try to start writing it down when you're 55 people and you're trying to figure out like how all the pieces work in that.
Yeah.
So, you know, invest the time in documenting what it is you do and how you want things done while you're smaller, because it's definitely easier to do it that way than the other.
Than after large scale.
Yep.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a huge project wading through all that stuff. No, I think that's
Yep.
great advice. And if somebody wants to connect with you guys online or find out more about what you're doing, what's the best place to do that?
Well, probably our emails, I guess.
Yeah, email, mine's paul@cullumhomes.com and Lindsay, AY@cullumhomes.com.
Yep.
Or email, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're on all that.
All the
We're in all the
socials,
places.
yeah.
Right, all the
All
socials.
the socials.
Cool.
I think,
Yeah,
well, we're not on TikTok or.
Yeah, we're not on that.
yeah, I'm still thinking about that TikTok one. I'm not sure yet.
Are you?
So.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm hip enough for that.
Yeah, I know. I'm slowly falling behind, or maybe it's quickly falling behind.
Yeah.
We'll link up your emails and your social media accounts in the show notes and everything. But I do have one last
Great.
segment of the show. We call it the Fast Five. So I'm going to hit you guys with 5 rapid fire questions. Just say whatever comes to mind first.
Ready.
Maybe we'll go same order, or if I stump one of you, you can switch the order. So we'll start with you, Lindsay, and then
Okay.
Paul, you can answer. So we'll start easy. What's your favorite business book and why?
4 Disciplines of Execution. It's easy to follow, harder to implement, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
How about you, Paul?
Oh, for me, mine is Turn the Ship Around. There's a book of the submarine that I was on in the leadership style on how to basically turn followers into leaders and kind of build that culture within your company.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we just started working through 40X last year too, and it's easy to read and hard to implement. So, yeah, but it's a good one. All right. Who is the most inspirational person in your life?
I mean, I would have to go with, I really admire my parents for, they decided to both quit their jobs, start a new business, and have a child in the same year. But it's just been really fun to see them sort of, they're not stepping back, but stand back and appreciate what they've built and how far the company's come. So I'm sticking with that.
I guess I have to go with the same answer for my parents, but I mean, they were in a completely different, my parents were in more of a corporate culture, kind of, did the ladder climbing stuff, but just the discipline and process and stuff that they've kind of instilled in me over the years is, got a lot of respect for what they've done as well.
Very cool. All right. If you could have one superpower, what would that be?
Superpower, flying?
Yeah, that's mine.
Both of you
You're
pick
talking to
flying?
two pilots here, Spencer.
Yeah, we both fly planes, so I can fly
that's fair.
without-
Yeah.
I can fly without, yeah. We can
Flying's
fly
a good
without
one.
the plane.
Yeah. Flying is a common answer, so you're in good company.
Yeah,
For
it'd be so awesome.
sure. All right. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Creative, organized, and good listener. That's 2 words.
We'll count it. We'll count it.
We'll count it as one combined word.
Yeah.
The process, spreadsheets, and new beard that I'm trying to grow in.
Nice. Looking good. All right. Final question. If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would that be?
Enjoy what you do. Home building is a tough business. The margins are good, but they're not great. And if you don't love what you're doing, this is not going to be the business for you. So just enjoy that you get to deliver these homes to people and create that place that they call home. And, that's what drives me every day, and to really enjoy what I do. So.
And I'd say make sure that you take time to not work in the business, but spend at least a couple hours a week working on the business, and always, whatever that is, looking for some area to improve and not just get caught up in the day-to-day firefighting that we all get caught up into, but spending that dedicated time to work on the business once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Paul, for joining me today. This was awesome.
Thanks for having us,
Thanks
Spencer.
for